I really don't know where to begin. I don't know where to begin, y'all. Hey, if you are new to the channel and if you are returning, welcome into Tommy Bites Homestead, where you're going to get news you can use. You're also going to get tips on stocking up your food, canning your food, growing your food, all of the things that we need to be thinking about right now as we enter into this recession. And the way it's looking, it may end up being a great depression, but I don't know what's going to be great about it. So things just tend to keep escalating. It's tennis with tariffs. That's what I should have named this. Tennis with tariffs. Swing, swing, because that's all that's happening. And in between that is the people, and we're the net. And you know how sometimes when somebody hit the ball, when Serena hits the ball, sometimes it don't go all the way over the net to the opponent. Sometimes it hits the net. And that's what's happening. We are the net. The people are the net. The US people are the net. Because this will not affect China's citizens at all. But US citizens, yeah, we're going to be the net. And we're getting hit, and we're going to get hit in a matter of 2 hours. Okay, so what's happening right now is the tariffs that Trump has put on everyone except for Russia and North Korea. Not here to argue with anybody in the comments, but what I'm saying is, when does this end? And where does it end? And how does it affect us? Because trust and believe, if you're sitting out there and think this is not going to affect you, this is going to affect you. Okay. China does not need us for anything. They can play this game all day. They really, really can. And then the fact that, why does everything have to be so racial? Okay. So the vice president, he said something racial towards the Chinese citizens. He called them peasants, and we didn't need anything from the peasants. Um, it just keeps going back and forth, and it just keeps getting worse. So as we start this video, welcome in again. Please hit that like, share the video out. I'm going to try to make this a quick video, but I don't know because I have so many browsers open right now just to show you what is happening, because sometimes people are visual, just like I'm a visual person, and me just telling you, like you're just telling me any old thing. But I kind of feel like sometimes even when I show you pictures or videos, some people still, people in the back, they still, would rather argue with you in the comments. I ain't got time for that. You either accept it or don't accept it. I don't care. This is what's happening. It's not going to change what's happening. What's going on right now is not going to change what's happening. The only thing I'm doing is letting you know what's happening so that you can plan accordingly. You can respond accordingly in your life, or what you need to do to prepare for the shortages that are going to take place. Because if this continues, that is what's going to happen. It's not going to be a matter of, did the shipments come into port? It'll be that too. But will they get to the shelves if they do come in? I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's a lot happening. A lot is happening. So Trump's tariffs on China is going to rise to 104% overnight. And China basically is already saying this is going to be a reciprocal thing. This is insane. Hold on for a second.
Knowing what Doge did, but knowing what you know having done this.
I don't know why that is going. It wasn't supposed to be. Okay, so President Donald Trump's tariffs on imports from China are set to rise overnight to 104% as Beijing refuses to withdraw its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. exports. Um, it was a mistake for China to retaliate when America is punches back harder. This is what is said by the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt at the briefing. That's why there will be a 104% tariff going into effect on China tonight at midnight. This is the bomb that was dropped today, which is why I have the title of my channel as a podcast, like, are you serious? Because every time something come out, that's what I say first. Are you serious? So this the Are You Serious podcast on Tommy Bites Homestead for right now. So Chinese goods were already set to be slapped with 54% tariffs as part of Trump's wave of added duties on dozens of nations, set to go into effect on Wednesday, tomorrow, couple hours from now, Eastern Standard Time. The figure was the combination of a 20% previously imposed tariff and a 34% additional tariff on Chinese goods as retaliation for the U.S.'s large trade deficit with the rival economic power. But Trump on Monday threatened an additional 50% tariff on Chinese goods in response to 34% retaliatory tariffs China imposed on the U.S. So this is back and forth. China's Commerce Ministry vowed earlier Tuesday to fight to the end against Trump's tariffs, as Trump has opened trade negotiations with South Korea, Japan, and other nations. Trump said China is not among about 70 countries that have reached out to the Trump administration to talk. China don't want to talk. So Caroline Leavitt said Trump believes China and its president Xi Jinping want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get that started, she said, adding that if China reaches out to make a deal, he'll be incredibly gracious, but he's going to do what's best for the American people. And he wants everyone to grovel at his feet, to beg him, please, sir, please, King, don't do this. Beijing on Tuesday issued a stern rebuke in response to Trump's threat to an additional 50% tax on Chinese imports, calling the move blackmail and vowing to fight to the end. So that's one of the things that's going on. When the announcement came out about I got too many browsers open. Good Lord. When that announcement came about the 104 tax, you know what the stock market did. It did what it had been doing all along anyway. So let me see which one we're going to do. So yeah, let's do that one. Let's mosey on over to that one. The tit for tat one. Let's see. So let's get into what this is going to cost us at the checkout, because that's what people really want to know. And then I'm going to show you a few videos. President Trump is showing no sign of backing down from his trade war. On Tuesday, he charged ahead with a massive 104% tariff on China set to kick in at midnight. If you missed the latest tit for tat, China was already bracing for a 34% hike on Wednesday as part of Trump's reciprocal tariffs package. But after Beijing vowed to slap its own 34% back on the U.S. goods by noon Tuesday, Trump fired back, adding 50% more, stacking the total to a whopping 84%. China, for its part, isn't blinking. Officials declared they would fight to the end against U.S. taxes on imports, calling the escalation a mistake on top of a mistake. As one spokesperson put it, China will never accept this. Okay, China isn't the only one in the crosshairs. U.S. Customs and Border Protection started collecting tariffs from 86 trade partners at midnight. So, what does this mean for our wallet? Let's get into clothing. They say if you've been eyeing that pair of new shoes, now might be the time to grab them. Prices are set to jump by 10 to 20% at midnight, thanks to the taxes Trump has rolled out, according to an analysis by the Yale Budget Lab. And it's not just shoes. Expect similar hikes for clothing, gloves, handbags, and even wool and silk goods. That's because much of what we wear in the US is made overseas. Take brands like Gap, for instance. 37% of their clothing is made in countries like India, Indonesia, and Bangladesh, with another 21% coming from Vietnam. You might assume these price spikes would push production back to the US, which is what Trump administration is claiming will happen. But experts say don't count on it. People will still import clothing to a large extent, and they'll have to eat the price increase. For one, it's going to take, even if they do that, because some companies say they are going to do that, but if they do that, it's not going to be an overnight situation, and it is going to cost a lot of money. It doesn't matter how much tax break the administration give these companies that bring their companies back over here to manufacture. Who is going to work in that in that factory? Who is going to do the work is the question. Because people nowadays, young people nowadays, they are not trying to be stuck in no building like our, parents or grandparents were working in a factory. They're not when they know they can make money through social media, other areas. Who is going to work in those buildings? And the company is still going to raise the prices, because they're not going to bring their company back over here, now have to pay more money because they pay less money overseas in slave labor. They pay less over there, so they will be losing money having to pay more over here for insurance for their employees, insurance for God knows what else. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And if it does happen, the prices are still going to go up. They will always find a reason when the prices go up to keep them where they are, just like they did with COVID. People were expecting, prices are going to go back down once the pandemic kind of eased off. No, the prices did not. In certain areas, maybe, but not everywhere. So they said people will still import clothing to a large extent, and they'll have to eat the price. And that's according to a former chief economist at the White House Council. Cars is another thing. You're going to pay more for your ride. The cost of cars and car parts could climb by over 8%, according to the Yale Budget Lab. And it gets worse. Bank of America says new vehicle prices could spike by as much as $10,000 if automakers decide to pass the full brunt of those tariffs on to buyers. And you know that they are. Coffee and tea is going to be affected. Your morning caffeine fix isn't safe. I told y'all when we was in that store, if you want coffee, go on and get your coffee now. The U.S. imports most of its coffee from Brazil and Colombia, and those beans are now facing a 10% tariff. And before you think you can switch to tea, they say, well, not so fast. The U.S. imports far more tea than it grows. And many of our top suppliers are also getting hit with tariffs. Japan, 24%, Argentina, 10%, India, 27%. Even though some states grow a little coffee, Americans drink more than 200 times what we can produce at home. And that's what people are not realizing. Oh, well, we could just make it here. We cannot make enough for the consumption of Americans over here. Fruits and vegetables are also going to go up. Guacamole, of course, is going to go up. So they say savor it. Nearly 90% of our avocados, which technically is a fruit, come from Mexico, where Trump has slapped on a hefty 25% tariff. Same goes for other staples like corn and mangoes. Turns out that the produce aisle of the grocery store leans pretty hard on imports. Alcohol, including European wine and beer. If alcohol companies choose to pass the cost on to you, consumer prices could rise by as much as 5%, according to UBS analysts. France is one of the largest suppliers of wine to the United States, and the wine board has already warned that Trump's tariffs will deal a serious blow to both exporters and American drinkers alike. And cracking open a beer at home might cost you more, since Trump expanded his aluminum tariffs to cover all canned beer. That means your sodas as well. Electronics like iPhones and video gaming consoles, iPhones already cost a lot. And then when Trump touted, well, we need to find an iPhone maker here, that made Apple stock go down as well. As if gadgets like smartphones and TVs weren't pricey enough, this new trade policy could push those costs even higher. Nearly every iPhone is made in China. And while some production happens in India, that country also facing steep taxes at 26%. Samsung isn't off the hook either, with much of its manufacturing based in Vietnam, another target of the trade crackdown. As a matter of fact, let me look it up real quick. I should have looked it up earlier, but iPhone they have nets outside of their building. Let's see, do I have a picture of it? Okay, that's not it. They have hang nets is what they call it, to prevent workers from committing suicide. Okay. I don't have a picture of the hang nets, but the working environment is so stringent there. They barely get breaks. They're working long hours. And so you have employees, because they can't leave or because of whatever, they literally have nets outside of the building, hanging onto the side of the building. You know what? I probably could find it on here. Oh, I didn't think of that. Because they would get so frustrated that they would just literally just jump out the window. You got to really hate your job to be at that level. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, that didn't come up. Hold on. Let's see if this is it right here. I can't find the picture, but I saw a picture of it. But they're barely paying the employees over there. So they have low wages. And you seem to think that they're gonna bring this stuff back here. They're not gonna bring it back over here and have to pay all that money, and they can work people to the bone over there. They're just not going to do it. So let's move on to the next one. Let's see. Okay, we covered that and that. So let's go over to TikTok and watch a couple of, well, Caroline Levitt, press secretary, who honestly, I feel like she looks like the girl who assaulted the student at the university. They look so much alike. It's crazy. I thought I had her on here, but I don't. Okay, is that her? I told y'all I have too many things open. Okay.
Brace yourselves, my friends. In just a few hours, those massive 104% tariffs on China are taking effect. That is going to impact so much of your budget and your wallet, it's hard to even quantify. The White House confirmed it's all going down at midnight tonight, and the president is not backing down. Guess what? China is also not backing down. And just wait till you hear what they had to say about all this. Now, before I tell you all about that, let's look at the stock market today. Earlier in the day today, the Dow was up like 1,000 points. Those gains came on the news that President Trump had been open to negotiating on his tariffs and that the White House was working with some countries to reduce those so-called kind reciprocal tariffs that take effect on tons of countries at midnight tonight. The White House claims at least 50 countries have called to make a deal. But the fact is, so far, no deals have actually been done. Nothing has been announced. And by the end of the trading day today, when investors started to realize that all these tariffs the president outlined last week would actually take effect at midnight, the market plummeted. And here's the real problem. The only trade deal that really matters right now is the one with China. Why? Because China is being hit with the highest tariffs, 104%, and because China is one of the United States' top 3 trading partners. And the fact is, China has no desire to cave, no desire to negotiate, and no desire to play President Trump's game. Don't take it from me, take it from them. Yesterday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said, China is not a seeker of trouble, but make no mistake, when challenged, we will never back down. Intimidation and threats never work with China. Another one, if the United States disregards the interests of both nations and the international community by persisting with tariff wars and trade wars, China will have no choice but to fight to the end. Speaking of international communities, look what else the Chinese embassy to the United States posted today. Whoop, who's that? That's the Chinese premier with the commissioner of the European Union. Trump hit the EU with 20% tariffs. So China said in this post from today.
They are going to bypass the United States. Canada is doing this. UK is doing this. We're going to be on an island by ourselves as if we don't need other countries.
From today, that China is ready to work with the European side to promote the sound and steady development of China-EU relations. So why does that matter? Because if the United States is running around slapping tariffs at all these countries that have goods to trade, it opens up this big wide lane for China to swoop in and say, hey, you don't have to trade with the United States. You can improve your trading with us. We have a huge market for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think since the EU is a particularly close ally of the United States, this image posted today was really meant to drive home the point that China doesn't care. And they'll just go around the United States and Trump's trade policy. Now, the EU has said that they are willing to negotiate with President Trump over those tariffs, but a deal between our country and the bloc is not done yet. Speaking of American allies and one of the other top 3 trading partners of the United States, today Canada announced that their retaliatory tariffs against the United States of 25% on all U.S. autos being imported into their country will take effect at midnight tonight. And on Thursday, China's 34% retaliatory tariffs on United States imports into China take effect. The president has said repeatedly that his tariff plan is being done for a reason. He says the United States has been taken advantage of by all these countries for years, and he is just trying to reset the global trade table to bring manufacturing back to the United States. But importantly, he also admits that his trade plan is going to result in at least some short-term pain to all of our wallets, savings accounts, 401ks, buying power, and possibly could result in job loss. But Trump says you need to hang with him because in the end, it's all going to be worth it. So the question is, what does Trump consider short term? Well, when asked, he has said everything from a few months to 2 years. Now, let's talk about that short-term pain starting at midnight because of those 104% tariffs on Chinese imports. The reality is some businesses have been stockpiling Chinese imports because they knew this was coming. So at least initially, for some things, not all, but some, you may not see huge increases right off the bat. But the longer this trade war with China goes on and that stockpile dwindles down, you absolutely will see these increases on what you pay for those goods.
And she said the same thing I have been saying for months now. Stores have been stockpiling. They first started stockpiling when there was fear that the port strike was going to last a long time. So they were trying to get items in. And then when they heard about the tariffs potentially taking place when Trump get into office, they started stockpiling more. So while to get ahead of the people that's going to be in the comments saying, I'm not seeing higher prices. You may not see higher prices on a lot of things right now because stores have been stockpiling. But what happens when they run out of that stockpile and they have to reorder and they got to make that payment? Now you're going to start seeing those prices go up. And I just showed you how Dollar Tree has already started raising their prices.
Don't forget about all those other reciprocal tariffs on all those other countries that will take effect tonight at midnight too, on things like fruits and vegetables. Those perishable items cannot be stockpiled, so they will be hit with those tariffs immediately. And I've reported this before, but it's worth saying again because I keep seeing people say, just buy American. You have to understand, just because something says made in America does not mean that it is immune from these tariffs. The law that governs the Made in America label says you can absolutely use imported materials and components for your item and still call it Made in America as long as the majority of it is made here. So again, if you think buying American will save you from these tariffs, in a lot of cases, you're mistaken. Brace yourselves, my friends. In just a few hours, those...
You mentioned the 70 countries or so. I'm curious, though, under what conditions at this point would President Trump talk to President Xi about tariffs?
Look, I just spoke to the president about this, and he believes that China wants to make a deal with the United States. He believes China has to make a deal with the United States. It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect on China tonight at midnight. But the president believes that she and China want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get that started. And the president also wanted me to tell all of you that if China reaches out to make a deal, he'll be incredibly gracious, but he's going to do what's best for the American people.
So China has to call first?
The Chinese want to make a deal. They just don't know how to do it. But the president will be implementing these
Yes.
4% tariffs.
That's
on
the
China.
answer.
What conditions?
He wants people to call and grovel. Oh, what can we do? What can we do to fix this? He wants to feel like he is the big person in the room, and he is the big person in the room. But I kind of feel in this situation, even though China do charge a lot for their tariffs, there was a better way to go about this. It was just a better way to go about it where maybe it wouldn't hurt the American people so bad. This is not going to hurt Chinese citizens at all. Not at all.
Might he consider lowering tariffs on China at this point?
It would be imprudent of me to tell you those conditions here from the podium.
You mentioned the 70 countries or so.
In Beijing, where a top spokesman warned China will fight to the end.
That's a lot of bark, not a lot of bite.
Evan Medeiros served on President Obama's National Security Council and is now an Asia expert at Georgetown University.
They don't want the global trading system to unravel. What they're trying to do is figure out a way to get Trump to back off, not just his tariffs on China, but his tariff strategy globally.
So then this war continues, conceivably gets worse. How does that ripple across the rest of the world?
It means higher prices. It means slower growth. It means fewer choices at Target and Walmart. And it means that all of our 401ks are going to shrink. It's bad.
In Beijing, where a top spokesman warned China will fight to the end.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Tuesday night. All eyes on Wall Street and President Trump's tariffs. The market's closing down again late today, with President Trump now escalating his trade war against China. His sweeping tariffs on 60 countries going into effect tonight, and real tension now among some of the president's top advisors, now playing out in public. Elon Musk calling the president's top trade advisor dumber than a sack of bricks. And Republican senators on the Hill today asking serious questions about this tariff strategy. One asking, whose throat do I get to choke if this is wrong?
Wow.
The Dow dropping another 320 points today, down more than 4,500 points since the tariffs were announced. The S&P 500 down 79 points today. The NASDAQ down 335 points, more than 2% today alone. President Trump tonight saying trade negotiations with some countries are happening. On social media saying a high-level delegation from South Korea is on the way for talks. The White House says Japan is negotiating with the president's Treasury Secretary. Tonight, China refusing to bow. President Trump hit China with 34% tariffs. So China hit back with 34% retaliatory tariffs. President Trump telling China to drop that retaliation, if not hitting them with another major tariff at midnight tonight. This would effectively be a 104% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. from China starting tonight. We're with home builders here in the U.S. this evening and what they say this will do to the cost of building a home and buying one here in the U.S. ABC senior political correspondent Rachel Scott leading us off tonight from the White House.
Tonight, with the financial markets all closing down, President Trump forging ahead with his massive tariffs, ratcheting up his trade war with one of America's largest trading partners, China. A steep 104% tariff on all Chinese products imported to the U.S. set to go into effect at midnight. China accusing the U.S. of bullying after President Trump last week imposed an additional 34% tariff on Chinese goods. China then retaliating with a 34% tariff on all American products. The president then raising the stakes, warning if China didn't back down by noon today, he would increase the tax on everything that comes into this country from China to 104%. But China refused, saying it would not give in to blackmail. Wall Street reeling, the Dow dropping another 320 points today. It has lost 4,579 points since President Trump announced his massive tariffs last week, down 10% in 4 days. On Capitol Hill, Republican senators who rarely break from Trump now feeling the pressure from companies and constituents back home.
This is creating some anxiety, this current tariff posture among some of my constituents.
I'm hoping and I hope you and the president are very sensitive about companies potentially going bankrupt by these actions.
Whose throat do I get to choke if this proves to be wrong?
Tonight, the president saying trade negotiations.
People are going to lose their jobs off of this. Businesses were already shuttering left and right. Walgreens, CVS, Kohl's, JCPenney's, you name it. Grocery stores, Kroger's, Albertson, Walmart. More and more are going to close their doors in order to make investors happy, because they got to have that money coming in. They got to have that wealth coming in. And if they feel like they bleeding out, well, they're going to stop the bleed. People are going to lose their jobs. People are now pawns of these tariffs that's happening.
With some countries are happening. China wasn't one of them.
Right now, Japan is flying here to make a deal. South Korea is flying here to make a deal.
And within the White House, the tariffs exposing deep divisions among some of the president's closest aides. Elon Musk attacking trade advisor Peter Navarro as a moron who's dumber than a sack of bricks, speaking out in support of free trade with Europe.
Both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America.
Navarro swiping back at Musk, saying his Tesla cars are built with foreign parts.
Elon's a car manufacturer, but he's not a car manufacturer. He's a car assembler.
The White House trying to downplay it all.
Look, these are obviously two individuals who have very different views on trade and on tariffs. Boys will be boys.
But as the White House brushes this off as boys being boys, millions of American families and businesses are already grappling with the real-world effects of the president's trade policies. In Potomac, Maryland, contractor Scott Sailing hopes Washington understands the new tariffs will make it more expensive to build homes and to buy them, showing me that in this American economy, he relies on imported products, from the flooring to the HVAC units.
No, China.
All right, what about the railing here?
That's Canada.
Looking up, seeing the metal brackets.
The metal brackets, also China.
Nearly everything that it requires to build this home is made somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says his costs are already rising because of the president's tariffs, and that means the cost of the price of the homes he builds will go up too.
We've got anywhere from a 5 to 20% increase on our roofing materials, lumber materials, and metal.
And
so it's already here.
Those tariffs, you'll just pass off to your consumers, your customers?
I've got no choice but to.
The president insists that these tariffs will bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States, but that could take years. And that contractor we spoke to says the reality is that these tariffs will make building and buying homes more expensive. And David, in just a few hours, the president's new round of tariffs on roughly 60 countries, including that 104% tariff on Chinese imports, is expected to go into effect. China calling it blackmail. Tonight, there is just no sense when or how this tariff war is going to end, David.
Rachel Scott leading us off from the White House tonight. Rachel, thank you.
Yeah, it's no telling how this is going to end. It's 10:48 right now. So when you think PM and when you think about how we just, oh my gosh, I want to order this. And we just get online and we order from Amazon. We order from Temu. How many people order from Temu? I think I've only made one order from Temu. But we order from these companies and we know where it's coming from. We know it's not coming from the United States. And it doesn't matter if it's coming from China or it's coming from Canada or wherever it's coming from, it's going to be hit with a tariff. And what typically would be cheap for you to order is now not going to be cheaper for you to order.
I'm curious though, under what?
There's an inaccurate report that appears to be floating around the market. The inaccurate report suggests that Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, had said that the China tariffs go into effect or went into effect today at noon. That is inaccurate. I just spoke to Caroline Levitt in her office just a couple seconds ago. She says that all of the China tariffs are scheduled to go into effect tonight at midnight, and any reporting that that happened at noon is not correct.
Tonight at 12:01 a.m., tariffs on Chinese imports are going up to 104%.
You
That
think
is
about,
astronomical, and on Monday,
if you think about everything that you have on right now, where did it come from? Or if you think about half of the things in your home, where did it come from? Your furniture. Did you buy it from, like, it's a place here in North Carolina, High Point, that make furniture here, but I think they closed. I don't know if they're still open. So every single thing, the tag is going to go up, which means you think about transport, because my husband's a trucker. You think about transport and the loads that the truckers get. When they get the call about, hey, I got a load here, or if they're looking at the load board and they see, you know, pick up from the port, etc., there's a price on that. That price is going to go up for transportation. And it's going to cost that company more. So anyway, around them trying not to raise the prices, like Walmart was, you know, coming up with ways that they could not raise the price so much because they know it's going to hurt. They've said this is going to hurt. Okay. Limiting, when that one guy said less things you can buy at Target and Walmart. Okay. Less because they're going to order less. You see what I'm saying? And they've already shrunk the store down and made the aisles even narrow so it looks like they're full. But less things are going to be ordered. They're not going to order 10 different ketchups, mayonnaise, cereals, and all of that, you know, from different brands and all of that. It may be limited. But all of this depends on how long he keeps the tariffs in place. That's the thing. Almost like with the ports. The longer it stays closed, the more you're going to pay and the less you're going to see in the stores.
Donald Trump said that the only way he would not apply these tariffs is if Beijing came to the table and lifted their retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. Beijing has already said they have no intention of doing that. The United States and China are officially in an all-out tariff war. Now, China has to be the first domino to fall, because if China does come to the table and negotiate, then the expectation would be that the rest of our global trade partners would see that if we're able to bring a deal to the table with China, that we could also reasonably do so with them. Another concerning point is that when it comes down to a tariff war, it's a war of attrition. Which country is willing to go further, put on more economic pressure to their citizens before one or the other gives out? I do have a feeling that China is willing to go further than where the White House is willing to go as far as the economic pressure they can place on their own countries, because right now nobody's winning in this tariff war. As we continue to increase, China is going to respond with their own retaliatory tariffs, and there does not seem to be any upside at the moment. Tonight at 12:01 a.m., tariffs.
China and the U.S. appear to be locked in a death spiral, where tomorrow China will be hit with a 104% tariff after it missed Trump's deadline to remove its 34% tariff that it placed on the U.S. in response to the 54% tariff that it placed on them, with China reacting to this by accusing the U.S. of blackmail and saying it will fight to the end. And then Trump reacting to that by saying China also wants to make a deal badly, but they don't know how to get it started. We are waiting for their call. It will happen. And China's retaliation to Trump's retaliation is not.
China is
spoke to the
not coming
president
to the
about this,
table.
and he believes that China wants to make a deal with the United States. He believes China has to make a deal with the United States. It was a mistake for China to retaliate.
Yeah, so a lot, you know, I don't know. This is just crazy. We're going to see what the stock market is in the morning, that's for sure. Because it's going to be very telling. And they've already said that we are in the midst of a recession, headed for a Great Depression. I'm trying to make sure I gave y'all all the information before I get off. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know where they're going with this. I really don't. Okay, I covered that. Oh, I'm hungry. It's too late to be eating. Stomach growling. What is wrong? Okay, so I need y'all to get down in the comments and definitely let me know what you think about all of this. Have you been preparing for these tariffs to hit? Were you stocking up even before they even started talking about tariffs, just because you like to be prepared? I'm not going to moan and complain about it, because I mean, what can you do about it? And it doesn't help. You want China to come to the table. If you want China to come to the table, then tell your vice president to shut the heck up. Do not open your mouth unless I tell you to. I'm trying to do the art of the deal. That's what Trump is trying to do, the art of the deal, right? Well, you need to let your sidekick know that he need to be quiet. He should not be out here doing what I'm about to show you. One is racist. It's disgusting. But this is where we are, so.
Incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. That is not a recipe for economic prosperity. It's not a recipe for low prices, and it's not a recipe for goals. Incurring a huge amount of
Guys, China is absolutely furious at Vice President J.D. Vance for making comments last week about, quote, Chinese peasants. Take a listen to what J.D. Vance had to say on.
But they tell us how they feel about us all the time, though.
On Fox News last week, defending Donald Trump's global trade war, he said, quote, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is, fundamentally, it's based on two principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. To make it a little more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. Now, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs responded pretty strongly and said, quote, it was both surprising and saddening to hear the vice president made such ignorant and impolite remarks. Perhaps if J.D. Vance ever decided to actually visit China, he would see that China is way ahead of us in terms of high-speed rail, AI, drones, education, etc. We act like we're the greatest country in the world, but American exceptionalism can only get you so far. J.D. Vance, you should apologize, and you should visit China and apologize directly to the Chinese people. Guys, China is absolutely furious.
He will not apologize. They don't believe in apologies. But if you hurt their feelings, they want an apology from you. That was just rude and disrespectful in so many ways. It just makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't make the people who live here, who are Chinese American, or anybody really who lives here, to know that this is the thought of your vice president and your president, of such hate, doesn't make anyone feel good but the people who think like that.
China has called U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance ignorant and impolite after calling Chinese people peasants, and tens of thousands of social media users called for him to be banned from entering China.
And then half of the things he wear probably came from China, including the makeup that he has on, the eyeliner that he has on, the tie, and even all the way down to that American flag pendant that he is wearing probably was made in China. They need to ban him from China, since he likes to ban people like they banned South African president from coming to the White House. Ban him from China.
Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian told reporters on Tuesday that Vance's comments, which had already caused a stir on Chinese social media, were surprising and sad. Vance made the comments on Thursday during an interview on Fox News where he defended U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs, which are currently fueling tensions between the world's two largest economies. We borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture, the vice president said. On Monday, President Trump threatened China with an additional 50% tariff on goods imported to the U.S. if it does not remove its 34% counter tariff by Tuesday. This would result in U.S. companies facing a total of 104% tariffs on Chinese imports, including the 20% tariffs imposed earlier and the 34% announced recently. China vowed to fight to the end, condemning Trump's actions as bullying. While Trump and his supporters argue that tariffs will benefit the U.S. economy and protect jobs, economists warn of potential disruptions to global supply chains, higher consumer prices, and the risk of a recession.
Ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is fundamentally it's based on two principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. That is not a recipe for economic prosperity. It's not a recipe for low prices, and it's not a recipe for good jobs in the United States of America. Ask ourselves, what is the globalist?
And I would like to leave it with him, but I just can't leave it with him. I have to counteract that with something I've already shared before, but I'm going to share it again. Hold on. Let me share. I hope this video is not super long. If it is, I do apologize, y'all.
We take for granted the idea that we don't have to pay bribes or hire somebody's cousin in order to get a business permit. That's how we built the economy we did. That's why this place worked. And it has very concrete impacts on all of our lives. So this is the first time I've been speaking publicly for a while. I've been watching a little bit. Yeah. Let me just close this portion of my remarks by saying it is up to all of us to fix this. Imagine if I had done any of this. Let me just, I just want to be clear about this. Imagine if I had pulled Fox News' credentials from the White House press corps. You're laughing, but no, this is what's happening. It's unimaginable that the same parties that are silent now would have tolerated behavior like that from me or a whole bunch of my predecessors. It is up to all of us. Imagine.
Do not let people think you do not belong. Once you sit at these tables with folks with fancy titles and you talk to them and you go, oh, they ain't all that. This idea that somehow they are so special, they're so smart, they're so sophisticated. Not really. They've been exposed. They've been given the confidence of feeling like they belong. But if you sit down and talk to them, turns out, that's my point. And the benefit for Michelle and me, because we came up and at each stage, you know, you go to Harvard and wow, it's Harvard. And then you find out, oh, Harvard's full of some fools and people that you would not put in charge of anything, but they're there. And there's some really amazing, brilliant people too. And then you go to the US Senate and you look around and everybody's represented, smart people and dumb people, good people and bad people. Now suddenly you're meeting at the group of 7 world leaders are all in a room, or the United Nations. And
Oh, same thing. Turns out that there's some really smart, amazing world leaders, and there's some fools running countries. Do not let people think you do not belong. Once you sit at these tables with folks with fancy titles and you talk to them and you go, oh,
They're going to call us out of our name, but do not allow them that power to make you feel any less than you are. And so with that, I say, if Trump want to bring back the 22nd Amendment, Barack Obama, could you please run? Please run. Because Trump will be in office again, because they are working on that. And if you haven't seen my video on that, go over to Tommy Bites TV 2.0 and check it out. It'll be the thumbnail with Barack and Trump shaking hands. Y'all take care. Definitely hit that like button, share the video out, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about the tariff that's going on. Again, are you prepared? Are you preparing? Are you afraid? What are your feelings? Because a lot of people, I've been watching videos, a lot of people, I can tell by how they sound very beaten down. They sound depressed. They sound scared. You can hear the fear when they are talking, especially a video that I have coming out on my other channel, TOMMYBITES TV 2.0. Shameless plug. But I'm trying to grow that channel. But listening to the students talk about, you know, the immigrant students and the non-immigrant students about what's going on and people being kidnapped off the street, and you could just hear the fear that should not exist in 2025. If you look at, you know, just click on some videos, you'll see the tensions are high. They're not really reporting on this on the news, mainstream media, but the tensions are high. Racial profiling is at an all-time high right now. People of color are afraid. Some people of color are afraid, I should say, not all, that they will be pulled off of the street and no one will know where they are. Mothers are always nervous about their children, especially the young Black boys and men. Always worried about them because you just want them to make it home safely, whether it's your home or their home, make it home safely. And now to add another level to it of, well, it don't have to be, you know, a drive-by shooting. It don't have to be human trafficking. It don't have to be any of those things. It could be your actual government that take you off the street because you look like you're not an American. What is that? What does an American look like? Because if that's the case, then yeah, none of us are, including you, except for Native Americans, which some of them have been taken off the street. Like, are you serious? I don't know where the country is going, but it definitely needs prayer. And even though a lot of people say that they believe in all of this, believe in Christ, believe in all of that, they're still out here in the name of Jesus, in the name of the Holy Spirit, doing the worst things to people that they wouldn't want done to them if the shoe was on the other foot. There's no empathy, yet alone sympathy. There's no empathy for what someone else is going through. Yes, if someone is here illegally, then they shouldn't be here. I am in agreement. But I'm also in agreement to treating people like human beings, not them rolling up on students and they don't have anything to identify themselves as I am ICE, I am this, I am that, and just saying, get in the car with me. So especially women don't know, and children, because I saw a little girl, it happened to her, she's on her way to school. Don't know if they're being snatched like the movie Taken, you know, and to be put into a sex I don't get deep into that. But anyway, sex trafficking is real. And women being snatched off the street in broad daylight by not just one, not just two, not three, but 6, 7, 8 people rolling deep. You got to get in the car with me. That would scare the living crap out of me. That should scare anybody. That this is where we are, that some of us feel like, oh my gosh, like we always tell our kids, make sure you have your ID on you. Even if you ain't got no driver's license, get a state ID, because you have to show your birth certificate. You have to show your Social Security, all that stuff to get that. And it almost feels like that's not even enough, because some people have those things and they still get sent somewhere, you know? So all I can say is pray over your family, pray over yourself, because none of us are safe. If you know what I'm saying, none of us are safe in this 2025 administration right here that's going on. And it may be going on in 2028 if the 22nd Amendment, and so you ain't got to get in my comments and say, well, the 22nd Amendment is there and they can't do it. Go check out my video on Tommy Bites TV 2.0, where I show you they are working on getting that changed so that Trump can run a third time. And that's why everyone's floating. The thing is, okay, let him get it done. But we want Barack Obama to run against him, or we want somebody that is winnable, decent to run against him. I have nothing against Trump. For people who were in my comments on my other channel, I have nothing against Donald Trump. I love everybody. The sad thing is he does not love everybody, and he has something against a lot of people, whatever the reason. Not here to get into that. So again, thank you for watching. If you are new, consider subscribing. I have garden videos. I have cooking videos. I have vlogs. I mean, you name it. It's over here on TOMMYBITES Homestead. It's over here on TOMMYBITES Homestead. I have canning, cleaning, all that stuff. At this point, we're going to need to be fishing for our own food, hunting for our own food. And even that's going to cost you, because you got to have a license to do it, unless you got your own property to do it on, or you know somebody who has property to do it on. But yeah, stock up on your food, your medication, all the goods that you need for your home. Stock up on your security, your protection of your home and your family. Backup power, you know, because it's storm season, all the things, you know, the routine that I go through. Get all the things that you use and try to not get the things you're not gonna need. Okay, so take care, stay safe, see you in the next video. Bye, y'all. I'll call you tomorrow. Well, I'll call you later because there'll probably be another video today.